Hello and welcome to the zoo. Today we're going to talk about a digital workplace and who's the boss in the digital workplace. It used to be an IT and facility management ordeal, but that's changed. And with me today is Monika Fahlbusch, who is the people person, head of all people at BMC Software. She has an illustrious career at Salesforce.com as well, and she has in the few months, about a year now, that you spent at BMC, transformed the workplace and made it more Google-esque, if you will, something that although I work from home, truly enjoy. So welcome to the zoo again, Monika.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
You recently was put in charge of not only the people and how we recruit and so on, traditional HR role, but you are now also in charge of the workplace as a whole. How has that changed your day-to-day responsibilities? What is it you look at now that you didn't necessarily think about before?
Yeah, sure. I'm actually going to go back and answer one of the questions you kind of asked somewhat in jest, which is who's the boss? I think you were talking about my new title. That's actually not the answer. The way to think about the digital workplace is the employee is the boss. And I think the other way to think about it is just like many companies like BMC, like Salesforce and others focus as much as possible around putting the customer at the center of the universe and building an ecosystem around the customer. What the digital workplace is about, among other things, is putting the employee in the center of our ecosystem. So what does that mean? Well, it means that instead of thinking in terms of enterprise systems that are written typically for the owners of time and expense, or HR for that matter, you really reimagine the technology and the experience in terms of, well, what's the right thing for the employee? So from a technical standpoint, that means you use different language, you use different UIs, it needs to be mobile. You shield the employee from the sausage making, which is almost always ugly. And you really just think about what is the experience for them, and is it easy? Is it collaborative? Is it intuitive? So that's really the way I think about it. That's the way we think about it at BMC, and that's the way we think about it on behalf of our customers, is to reinvent the experience of being inside the company, focusing on how that experience can come to the front versus continuing to disappoint our employees. Especially when we have an amazing customer experience, sometimes our employees look internally, and that's really not fulfilling with their experience then of being an employee. So that, for me, is the vision of the digital workplace, is to put the employee in the middle of what it is that we are building to make sure that we're focused on their experience.
So the people are the boss. Then how can I, as the boss, have a say? How do I register my needs and demands? Because many of us have fairly well-stocked homes where we use Twitter and Facebook, where we can record anything on any type of device, whether it's music or TV, and we don't even have to be in the house. The house knows where I am and when I'm coming. How do I get that? How do I help influence the workplace from a technology standpoint as an employee?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I'll give you a couple of answers. If we use the tool right, there are numerous ways for employees to give us feedback. One of the things that we don't do today, typically in companies, I think BMC does a good job, is have a way for employees to give us that feedback. And the feedback needs to be more than just was the ticket closed on time, or did you get your provisioning? The feedback needs to be true feedback on how I felt. Am I productive? Was my issue resolved, yes or no? And so I think part of the digital workplace, just like in our consumer-based apps, allows for us to have a lot of feedback. The second thing that the digital workplace allows is the technology gives us feedback by virtue of data. So think about a new hire experience. Throughout the experience or the process, we're getting feedback from that employee. They're either opening things we've asked them to open or not. That's feedback. Or they are giving us input, which is either good or bad. If you're using technology like our technology, which is HR case management, where employees can go to file information about HR whatever HR services they might need. That's rich with information because it tells us what's happening either during a certain period of time or in a certain location. And the goal then is to insert yourself in that process to change that experience for the better. So I think those are two key ways that the digital workplace, if we do it right, allows the employees to have a very strong voice.
So one reason people want to move to a digital workplace is it creates greater employee engagement. Mm-hmm. What is that?
Think about it in terms of what we do in our personal lives. I'll tell you a story. EDM is my favorite music. I love SoundCloud, but SoundCloud is changing their pricing policies, and in general, the experience is getting worse, not better.
Electronic dance music you was referring to.
Yeah, thank you. And so my children, who are both millennials, convinced me to look at iMusic. I downloaded the app and I spent probably 45 minutes customizing my experience with the app, which will then in turn customize my music. The point there is, if I'm willing to spend 45 minutes doing anything on Apple's behalf, I'm absolutely going to be willing to do to make an investment on my company's behalf. So part of what happens what should be happening is that we involve the employees more, that we focus more on the user and less on an intermediary, whether it's an HR person, an ops person, an IT person, and we should make an experience engaging for that employee so that they will actually be the direct contributor to the work, whether it's setting up their new hire profile or their IT provisioning requests or anything else that we might want. We need to disrupt that by going straight to the user. They're willing to do it, and especially if we make it engaging. One of the things I recently did myself was a compliance training course. As you know, at BMC, a lot of that's online. And if we're being honest, a lot of times those are very stale. And I give major credit to our team because they made it very interactive and there was a lot of gaming ideas that were embedded. And so I can't believe I'm going to say, but my compliance training was actually fun. So I'm
still bummed that I missed one. Because I clicked on it because I want to have a perfect score, right?
They dragged you in, but you were on track for the perfect score, and then you felt bad. So, but the point is, it was engaging for you. It was engaging for me. It really changed the experience of something that can be fairly, blasé, and I think that's really the idea.
Interesting. What will come if you have a great employee engagement? What type of results do you see? Does it drive revenue or is it productivity? Why invest in this?
I think it drives all of the above because the idea is its engagement really drives productivity. So if we're not wasting your time, and if we're not putting processes in front of you that feel like you've gone back in time in terms of technology or how something is done, we believe that you're going to be unleashed then to do more innovation, to think more creatively because we're not in your way and we're not bringing you backwards. The other thing that I like about it is that it creates a better connection between our employees and our customers. If you have a higher relationship, a more consistent relationship between the way we use technology and the way we pitch technology, sell technology with our customers, it's a more authentic interaction. And at BMC, of course, we're using our own technology quite a bit. On the IT side, we're power users, as you might expect, for all of our infrastructure management, data center management, performance and analytics tools. I mean, we're extremely efficient at BMC in terms of running our infrastructure, as you might hope, because we sell that great technology to a lot of our customers. And the idea now is to use some of our other technology, like our flagship product in ITSM, MyIT. We purchased HR Case Management not that long ago, and more to now bring the drinking of our own champagne, not just from the IT and infrastructure management, but also into the employee experience and administration.
It's interesting how in just a few years, modern technology went from being solely consumer-oriented to now becoming, and then became sort of a nice to have in the enterprise, and now is a must have in the enterprise. I spoke to one of our guys who sold to Rolls-Royce, and top 3-4 initiatives was a better user experience. Not only millennials, but people in general, do they now demand a consumer style experience at work? Or is that just, it used to be Google have it, Apple has it, so that's good. And if you're lucky enough to go work for that, we just happy we have a job. Is this becoming a recruiting weapon, so to speak?
Yes, and that really goes to your other question, which is why is it important? What's the ROI? I think in addition to this closer connection to our customers and the driving of culture when we all feel like we are using better technology, there is a direct relationship in terms of winning the war for talent. What's fascinating to me actually is that I think everybody, and even in this session, we talk about hot tech companies, Google, Facebook, Salesforce.com, BMC. And what I'm starting to see is some really incredible applications of the digital workplace in companies you wouldn't expect. And I think that's both exciting and I think it's necessary for them because, not every company is a hot company. Not every company is an attractive employer and has that brand. And so I think for those companies, it's really, really an imperative for them to differentiate in some way and to be able to drive top talent and keep top talent once they're there. So that's what inspires me is I love talking to some of our customers who you might not expect, or companies that I just flat out admire what they're doing because you wouldn't necessarily think that they might be doing this and using technology in this way. And what I tend to see is also they're doing it out of necessity. It's either a cost necessity or it's a location necessity. And so I just think that in a few years, we'll be seeing the digital workplace really dominate a lot of these conversations. It's already one of the most searched terms in CIO, formerly CIO Magazine. And so I don't think there's any escaping it. I think the question is, how can we all really be great ambassadors into what does it mean? Why is it important? Why should you do it? What are we learning at BMC? And how we're helping our customers and ourselves.
I used to gauge emerging technology as it's one thing if it works in Silicon Valley or New York City, but it's not taking off until it's taking hold in St. Louis. And recently I spoke with a customer from Midwest, and I'm thinking these people are not really. They sell pipes, and I think they're not going to be that interested in my team. And they said they desperately need it because there's only so many engineers in the Kansas, Nebraska area. And if we can show them this, there's a high probability they will sign with us than they will sign with the competition. And I think that's very interesting. It actually the other way around. The digital workplace might actually explode in the Midwest or in more not Silicon Valley areas because that's where it has the biggest impact. So if we will try to help our customers, what are some of the tips and tricks you can share with them? For example, onboarding is a big pain. How can that be improved?
Onboarding is, for us, we hire over 1,000 people a year. And so onboarding is something that we're certainly paying attention to. And I think about onboarding in terms of sales and marketing. That's what it is. Good recruiting and good onboarding is sales and marketing. So I think to answer your question, for our customers and for companies in general, what we need to talk about is really what is the pain that you're experiencing and what's the right response to the pain. And usually there is a disruptive opportunity, either in the technology or how they can re-envision the processes around the technology or just flat out think differently. So I don't think there's one answer. I think it's really about what is the partnership with this particular customer or with our ecosystem. It might be a partner. It might be anybody else who's in our ecosystem, and what are the discussions that we're having in terms of what they need help with.
Around the onboarding thing, we do unique things here at BMC. Can you explain that a little bit?
So
I remember when we got acquired, we spent 3 days filling out paperwork while buying a new house. So it was a wonderful time.
Great experience, right? Yeah. So one of the things that we're doing is we're launching a new process to our onboarding. We've built an onboarding app, and it will eventually fully integrate with our other technology and be nested in My IT and what we call My BMC. And the idea is it's twofold. Actually, it's threefold. There are three ways to think about what needs to happen in onboarding. The most important thing is that onboarding should be a reaffirmation that you have chosen wisely. You have chosen the right company, the right job. And I think that's probably the biggest disappointment in most people's onboarding experience is what do? We actually spend more of the time focusing on forms, process, policy, and provisioning. Well, that might be interesting, but that doesn't make you feel great. It doesn't reaffirm that you've joined this amazing company. And so the most important part of onboarding is to push those process elements, those provisioning elements elsewhere in the process. They should not be day one. Day one then should be a true immersion into the culture of the company you've joined. You should be hit over the head. For us, we're very remote. We're a very global company. So this sometimes is virtual as much as it is a physical experience. But the objective should be, I've joined an amazing company. I understand the technology. I understand our proposition in the market and in our industry. I'm excited by who we are. I understand who we are. And I've had an energetic, affirmational experience. That should be the number one thing that the onboarding delivers on day one. And then after day one, it should be all about productivity. We should be asking you questions. Did you get what you need? If you didn't, here's how to get help. So really, we look at it in that way.
We need to remove bureaucracy and technology, facility technology, and focus on culture and people in general and get them up and running as fast as possible. Why has it taken this long before we came up with this in general?
Yeah, I'll give you.
Because you've been in HR for quite a while now. You've seen the transformation happen right in front of you.
Yeah, I think, look, my title here at BMC is now Chief Employee Experience Officer. That is not. That was intentional because we really do want to focus on the experience for our employees without thinking of silos, HR, finance, procurement, facilities, what all these administrative silos, including IT, of course. And so for us, we were very purposeful in really focusing on the experience. And I think part of why we haven't seen more disruption in the HR space is that, with all due respect to my HR colleagues, where I have spent 29 years in HR, we're not really known as a creative, innovative subject matter team, and that needs to change. And I think one of our best partners can be IT. So I'm really excited by this partnership at BMC, where we're bringing IT and HR and facilities and community relations, all together. I don't think that will be unusual in a few years from now.
Interesting. Okay. How do you see this play out over the next 5 to 10 years? Every employee is going to have this Star Trek-like experience, and gamification is going to be part of everything. Are we even eventually going to get rid of email, or is this just incremental steps? What's the next big thing you see on the horizon?
God, there's so many things. Work is changing so fast. And I think what we'll see is for sure a bigger emphasis on communicating more with the user, in this case, our employees, and really disrupting administrative processes in particular that require a lot of bureaucracy, approvals, people. And I think by putting things more in the hands of those employees, we will really be disrupting the space. It also, as I mentioned earlier, will allow for a lot of feedback that companies can then maneuver around. But I think the real benefit, the real change will be, we need to take away from all these employees the administrative burden we place on them. And look at HR as an example. HR places a big tax on employees and managers, whether it's big administrative processes like hiring or like the performance management process. These are things that take way too long. You burn way too much effort. And I would say the return is probably not universally positive. So by enabling the digital workplace, what we're doing is taking a lot of that heaviness out of it in order to then have employees do much more important work that is more customer-facing, product-facing, innovative, service-oriented, That's the goal.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you so much, Monika, for coming back to the zoo. It's always a pleasure having you.
Thank you for having me. See you.
Thank you. For the rest of you out there, take care. Be safe. Bye-bye.